Let us now move to our next session on Metaverse trajectory driven by AI and blockchain. Well, this session will discuss the role of AI and blockchain in the success of Metaverse and what are some business use cases like design-driven manufacturing or the next in the e-commerce. Please welcome our speakers for this session. Hina Dixit, investor plus Metaverse investor, Samsung Next. Hina currently heads AI investments at Samsung Next. She also focuses on AR, Web3, and infrastructure sector areas. She has invested in three plus companies in the past 5 months during her tenure in Samsung Next. Hina is joined by Ritesh Arora, Chief Digital Officer, CEAT Limited. Ritesh is responsible for driving digital-led transformations in the area of customer and channel experience, smart products, smart manufacturing, and improving the digital maturity of the organization. The session is moderated by Rafee Tarafdar, CTO, Infosys. Rafee is responsible for the technology vision and strategy, sensing and scaling emerging technologies, advising and partnering with clients to help them succeed in their transformation journey and building high technology talent density. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome all of you to this summit. I'd like to hand the baton over to Rafee. Over to you.
Thanks for the introductions, Justin. Hi, I'm Rafee, and I'm very excited to have seasoned practitioners with me to discuss the Metaverse trajectory driven by AI and blockchain. Between the three of us, we bring very different backgrounds. So Ritesh is focused more on, as a CDO, is focused more on applying technology to solve business problems, to solve customer problems. We have Hina, who brings a lot of insights from the startup ecosystem from an investment perspective, and I bring a lot of experience from the implementation aspects of Metaverse, AI, and blockchain. And hopefully between the three of us, we'll try and cover few aspects. One is the evolution of Metaverse, some of the business use cases where we are finding value for Metaverse, the foundational technologies that are required to implement Metaverse-based solutions, and also certain key takeaways in terms of what's ready for prime time, what is not ready, and how you should think about the journey as you embark on your Metaverse journey. So let's start with the business relevance and the use cases that we are finding value from a Metaverse standpoint. So Ritesh, I know that at RPG and at CEAT, you're driving a lot of initiatives around Metaverse. So if you can share the areas where you are looking at applying Metaverse and the value that you're finding, it will be a good kickoff for our session.
Yeah, so thanks, Rafee. So from my perspective, whether it is Metaverse or any other digital technology, it has to benefit the business, right? So there could be a lot of hype, but it has to pass the test, from a business impact perspective. And the way I evaluate impact is primarily on 4 dimensions. You can reinvent your organization, you can reinvent your value chain, you can reinvent business, and the customer experience part of it. So as far as Metaverse is concerned, I think the low-hanging fruit is obviously the collaboration part of it. You can do meetings now with work from home. We want richer engagement, deeper engagement. So that is something which can easily move on to the Metaverse. All the events, training, learning programs, all of this are easy pickings, and it makes total sense. As and when various technologies mature, I think we will adopt them as soon as they happen. Second is from a value chain perspective, I think there is a huge potential for, if I talk about manufacturing, which is my background, huge potential for collaboration between the OEM and the tier 1 supplier R&D team. So you can actually make digital prototype of the product, run various simulations, and iron out all the things before you actually get into physical prototyping, right? Then if I look at reinventing the business, fashion industry, entertainment, etc., have shown us that the product could be a digital asset also that you can sell. So I think other industries also need to be creative enough and find out their sweet spots of selling the digital assets. The most exciting part for me, because creating customer experiences is something which I'm really passionate about, is looking at the entire customer experience journey with a metaverse lens. what kind of experiences can you deliver in Metaverse which you couldn't do otherwise? And I'll illustrate it with a couple of examples. So today, if we go to a car website, we can see the 3D view, we can rotate, we can see interiors, change colors, etc. But in a Metaverse context, you can actually create the digital twins of the car, and you can compare two cars. For example, if you want to compare a BMW 2 Series and 3 Series, you can feel the difference in the acceleration, braking, various other parameters. You can play around with, what many of us hear about 5-link suspension, but don't know what the hell that is. So you can actually play around with that. So you can do those kind of things. Then we have chatbots. Now the next level could be you can have non-player characters who have the NLP part also and the body language AI also, which reflects like an actual person. I'm from tire industry. You can break the tire and see the cut section of the tire, how it looks like, and play around with that. I would also say that, there could be dealerships in the future who won't have a physical store and, who can conduct the entire business through Metaverse only. So this is my 2 cents on the various dimensions where Metaverse can potentially impact.
No, great. I think you have covered a lot of spectrum here, starting from collaboration, education, to digital twins, to actually creating the real life experience, and also getting under the hood in a way, right? Like, I think I like the way you said the tire, if we have to deconstruct and see, and I think those are good spaces. Now, this also requires a lot of innovation. And it also requires a lot of new thinking. So, Hina, I know you are in Bay Area. You're working with a lot of startups in Metaverse, AI, blockchain. So, what are you finding over there in terms of how these technologies are being applied to solve the business problems?
Yeah, so the Metaverse has actual potential to become a $1 trillion annual revenue opportunity across the world. And it's not limited to, a few spaces, but it could be like, it could span upon from like medical, advertising, edtech, digital events, e-commerce, hardware, and like even fintech as well. So when looking at like, Metaverse, I tend to pursue it from John Radau's wider view that anything that frees you from your physical ties, that is going to be a contribution or part of Metaverse, and that does include even making a phone call. So I have a very holistic view about it, and that's why looking back at how Metaverse became a trending event suddenly and a trending market. COVID-19, which served as an inflection point for the Metaverse, in that the digital economies, they suddenly started growing. And this happened because consumers were starving for real life connections at that point. And that's why the big players like Meta, Microsoft, and a lot of these other companies which had small budget as well, they started doing these M&A efforts, and they started covering more and more Metaverse related various levels of technology, and they expanded their teams as well and started producing quick content for the users or quick tools for the users to use. This does include Zoom, Clubhouse, or VR chat, and this really happened because people wanted to talk, people wanted to connect, and it started just from that. And going from there, even big giants, gaming giants, the MMO gaming giants like Roblox and Meta, as well as some other ones, key player ones. And we have invested in a few very amazing, MMO startups as well, which includes Axie Infinity. They also started investing heavily into this problem space. And the main core of the problem was to solve the consumer pain point. So anything that solves the consumer pain point that frees you from your physical ties in or physical barriers is going to be part or a contribution to metaverse. That's how Samsung Next is kind of trying to visualize it. Now, we have invested in some very cool companies. This does include the Yuga Lab, which is the house of Board API Club, this Sandbox. Both of these companies were valued at $4 billion, and they raised $450 million and $400 million respectively. Now, when it comes to impact, I'm seeing impact even in the medical field. I was recently talking to a doctor from Princeton, and he's a very prestigious doctor, and he tried to create this entire metaverse or a virtual rendering of entire CT scan of patients, so that surgeries, students can go and they can practice surgeries while they're navigating their way through veins and nerves. And it's amazing how metaverse is empowering everybody out there. And even for students, if they want to learn and do an experiment in physics during our times, we used to be very limited to a small bench, but now there's no limit. Even when it comes to edtech, the renderings of various experiments that can happen for the kids, and it could be in a very safe environment too in the classrooms, right? So it does liberate a lot of people. So wherever we are seeing the business impact is exactly the points where somehow there was some sort of physical barrier, and the makers and the founders, they are trying to solve that consumer pain point.
Okay, thanks. So we covered a number of different business use cases and scenarios that are, that we are seeing in different areas. Now let's look at the technology building blocks that are required in order to enable metaverse, right? And so the way I'm finding is there is a confluence of different technologies that are all coming together and are required to come together in order for the whole metaverse experience to be good. And it starts right from infrastructure, which is where we look at cloud, we look at 5G, we look at the GPUs and TPUs required for AI. Then we're looking at a lot of spatial computing kind of softwares that are required in order to create those kind of experiences. We're looking at devices that are required in order to render. It could be wearables, it could be the headsets. We still don't have, I think, the commoditized product which is required for this to become fully scalable. And then we have the experiences and all that stuff that is coming together. Now, while there are a number of these technologies that are required to make metaverse work, one of the important elements is AI, right? So maybe I'll start with Hina. As in terms of specifically AI, how are you finding AI being used in order to deliver a better experience and a proposition?
Yeah, sure. I think for us, thinking of AI from the perspective of consumer is to empower them to create more content. And this will happen if we focus a lot on synthetic media, which is going to be the next chapter in the story. And it promises full immersion in our fictional worlds with assistance of AI, right? So from anything if you look at some of the startups, from Fortnite to the Sandbox, we can already see this wireframe of an emergent metaverse, which is built upon many dislocated layers, right? And one day, these virtual worlds, they will be filled with these hyper-real content created by users quickly and much cheaply with the help of AI. And I imagine a multi-layered metaverse overflowing, not with just people, but, even with how inanimate objects can be part of the metaverse, how animals and plants, as a matter of fact, or how the focus can be built upon even on the faces and bodies of the human beings, right? They're human, their avatars as well. So there are a bunch of AI efforts that are happening in this space, and there will be much more markets for trading AI models to generate these new content. Much like how users can purchase custom in-game items today, it's going to be similar. And these AI models, they can be in form of NFTs, and you can just go and own those NFTs, which kind of can generate a certain kind of avatar or individuals, right? And then you can even sell your own licenses for these NFTs. And then the combination of AI generated content and virtual reality it will allow like a total immersion in alternative realities as well. Now, looking at this, like the key I think will be a combination of AI tools that can scale content at marginal cost and the ability to kind of like let these everyday users deploy these tools in the metaverse. That is going to be the hard part. Now, even looking at the hardware, like where can AI actually empower, right? Like there can be like frame drops, like when you're trying to even chat, like even right now. So we see AI even in play right now, where next frames are automatically predicted, and then a filler frame is generated so that we have such seamless experience while we are talking, right? So similarly, I think even with synthetic like voice generation, or as a matter of fact, I have seen some amazing research work in medical field, even in edtech, where people want to give this power to these creators who come from various fields to create various experiences or some tools that they can use to teach their students. So even in edtech, I think that there's going to be a huge space where AI can just come in and make an impact.
Great. So I think you covered a lot of different things, right? From using AI to generate these visual environments to using them to create better environments. And I think we also have to do it in a responsible manner, and also ensuring that the services that we use AI to generate are also ethical and create an inclusive environment. Because I think, unlike in a social environment where we have to go through a lot of learning in creating right environments, content moderation, and all that, I think with Metaverse, it is important that we take the learnings that we have had from a lot of these social mediums and all that, and bring that into Metaverse so that we don't have to go through the same learning that we did. Now, the other element around this is about whole usage of the distributed ledger technologies. And today there is a lot of talk as well as use of crypto, use of NFTs, use of tokens, digital currencies. So Ritesh, as you're thinking of it from a business perspective, how do you see all of these come together in the metaverse? And again, in metaverse, we see these central worlds, decentralized worlds. So how do you see all of this coming together?
So first of all, I think NFTs are critical. I mean, because they represent ownership, they represent value, which could be in terms of a digital product or value that can be exchanged for services, for experiences. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. See, right now, because there is lack of clarity in terms of what is going to happen to crypto. So the way we are looking at metaverse is something which is enabled by NFTs, but it is crypto free. I mean, pivoting to crypto as in when the right regulations and legal framework is there, it's very, very easy to do. As long as you are in a blockchain, you can do that. What I'm essentially looking at is that, again, if I go back to that customer experience journey example, ideally, I would want to bring in an NFT at every point of interaction with the customer in some way or form. And I'll talk about that as well. What that will do is it will give me a lot of customer data, which can help me tailor hyper-personal experiences for the customer. So what I'm going to focus on is this is one thing. And the second part is, from a technology perspective, I'm really eagerly looking forward to interoperability or cross-chain bridges, because I think that is going to be very important, because initially it's going to be a multiverse of metaverses, right? So for example, the test drive example I took. Now, if you have to take a test drive, you need a space, you need a cityscape or a mountain to do that, right? So for example, if there's interoperability between, let's say, an automotive maker and there's an Indian metaverse called Loka who has created Connaught Place. So if I want to do that, then I should be able to take the car, which could be represented as an NFT. The NFT would need to be added to my wallet as a customer, right? So there could be a smart contract which the automotive OEM creates, which will give me that NFT for maybe 2 hours or 5 hours or 1 day or whatever, and I can take it to another metaverse where where you have Mumbai or New York or San Francisco or whatever, and test drive the car over there, and as the smart contract expires, it goes back. So these are the kind of things that I'm looking at. And if you think from a digital marketing perspective, I think it's going to be a big industry for the digital marketeers. I mean, if I look at Samsung also, I think Samsung did a massive treasure hunt in one of their phone launches in a metaverse, right? And if I think of other examples, one thing that, someone was mentioning to me the other day, that Red Bull, if you drink Red Bull, you get wings, right? So if you can earn an NFT which actually gives you wings and you can fly in the metaverse. So there is, I think, NFTs is something you are only constrained by the extent of your creativity. You can launch fantastic loyalty programs using NFTs. You can give away NFTs for various customer engagements, reward right kind of customer behavior, and customer can redeem or burn by getting discounts or by having a virtual meet in metaverse with a brand ambassador. I mean, I think the potential is limitless for NFTs. And I won't think of a centralized kind of a metaverse, because I think the more open the network is, the more decentralized it is. I think it is good for the overall ecosystem, and you can also bring in a lot of content creators who will create content, who will create that for the brand.
No, absolutely. I think you made a very good point saying that, we should have more decentralized and distributed multiverses in a way. The way you coined, I think, is right. Because I think today we are already in this whole model of few bigger central platforms, right? And that is that beyond some point is not it is not good for the rest as such, right? And in that way, I think it is good to create it. And at least one good thing that has started happening now is there is at least an industry forum that has been formed to look at some of these standards and interoperability and other aspects from a metaverse standpoint. I think while it is still in early days, at least some of the big tech players and industry consortiums are coming together to see how do we create that interoperable kind of environment.
And just to add, sorry for ending, Rafee, but I have one important point I wanted to make. While I'm all for decentralized, but some of the big tech metaverses are going to be centralized. And the way we run ads today and we get good ROI, we'll keep doing that also. So it's not an either or thing. It's, you've got to do both. So it's an and thing.
No, I think that's a great point as well. I agree with you. I think it has to be, both have to coexist together. But I think if you're able to make them interoperate with each other, then we get the best of both worlds in a way, right? And that is good. So now, if you look at the previous thing before Metaverse, it was all largely about mobiles and apps and all. And these were largely driven by the touch phones in a way, right? And touch phones essentially just revolutionized everything. And today, I think in Metaverse, if you look at it, I think we are still waiting for that product that is going to create that level of exponential growth and commoditization of technology. And this is where, I thought it would be good for us to now look at if somebody is starting on their metaverse journey today, right? What would you suggest as a starting point for them, right? Because some of them could start with augmented reality, some of them could start with mixed reality, some of them are going directly into virtual reality, which requires those headsets and all that stuff. And some are using a combination of these different technologies in order to make things work. So, how would you recommend somebody who's thinking about it to start their journey?
Prism that I use to make the decisions from an RPG group perspective also, one has to take baby steps because it's a completely new area, right? And we don't even have a developer ecosystem, right? We don't have any in-house people who really understand this space. Forget everyone else. When I was creating my MetaMask wallet, I struggled. I had to actually ask one of my team members who is very passionate about this subject to help me create a MetaMask wallet. So hence, I strongly believe it has to be very baby steps. I mean, to start with, I'm not even really looking at AR or VR headsets. I think the first step is, and there are other challenges also, Rafee, for example, if you really want that kind of immersive experience, I strongly believe till 5G penetration happens, that won't happen. And from a developer ecosystem, I created some virtual reality based training, and I kid you not, I had to really struggle to make it happen. Right. So from that perspective, I'm my suggestion would be just start with some meaningful use cases, because this is an evolving space, and I think the step one is to dip your toes and fingers in the water and get a sense of that. Have some use cases which are very business focused. Have some simple integrations, like we are thinking of doing a traditional e-commerce integration, extending those APIs, and maybe we will redirect some of the customers who are interested to have that, extra layer of experience, redirect them from website to metaverse to, get a feel of the product and superlative experience, and do a lot of stuff for internal folks, which I said in terms of product launches. Now, when you do a product launch, you can only call limited number of people, whereas, we have thousands of dealers. So a launch in a metaverse could really get your entire sales team and some of the tech-savvy dealers, or you can set up a screening for them where a sales guy can, sort of project the metaverse on the screen, right, and participate in the metaverse while others watch and learn. So this would be my take. AR, VR, definitely those elements will come as we go along. But I think there has to be a method. There has to be a well thought out process.
No, thanks, Ritesh. I think those are very good inputs. So start small, expect some learning, expect some evolution, and focus on the customer and business proposition, and then start building your use cases and learn as part of it. So now, Hina, from your perspective, what would be your recommendations on somebody who's starting this journey?
So now, I actually think there are a lot of opportunities for new startup founders, and a lot of problems are still unresolved. For example, there is a huge opportunity in photogrammetry and techniques like NERF and 3D GANs, right? Because these are yet to be commercialized. We need more tools for creator economy as well. So only saying that a few giants can solve all the problems, it's really wrong, right? So new startup founders, they will have equal opportunity to thrive and compete against these existing giants. And some of the work which is still in research right now, for example, 3D GANs, which is currently a research project which is led by Gordon Wheatzine. He's a professor at Stanford. Now, this helps create these extremely realistic human avatars, or even inanimate avatars, with 3D depth mapping. And it makes sure that each and every wrinkle and expression of these human avatars looks so real, right? Or even creating some gaming experience quickly. So in such cases, I'm seeing there is a huge space where research work is happening, but nobody is commercializing these research or figuring out how these research work can be commercialized into actual products. So I think that could be one starting point for new startup founders or new users to kind of look at, it's what the research field is looking like for metaverse. So the main, I think, focus should be understanding the problems of the consumer, understanding what research work is out there, and understanding what part of those research work can be commercialized.
Great. Thanks so much, Hina, Ritesh, for your inputs. I think we could go on for some more time, but we have run out of time. So thank you so much for your inputs, your insights. And with this, I'll hand it over back to Justin.
Thank you for such an interactive session, Hina, Rafee, and Ritesh.